live. Welcome everyone to the latest LinkedIn Live for me, and I'm happy to have Nancy Steinberg and Stan. And what is your? How do I pronounce your last name again?
Sunderlane, lean and mean.
Sunderlane. Okay. Looking forward to have a conversation today. If you want to post in the chat where you're from, call out, that would be great. We're going to be talking about different things related to job search. So you'll give me 1 second because answering one question. One of the challenges of this is trying to multitask, actually. So I've done multitasking for now. So a little bit of background, and we see our first person here. Welcome, Dan, from Woodland Park. I'm actually a couple of towns over from you in Wayne. I always still call it West Patterson, for sure. So Nancy, Stan, and I, we met at different networking events. And I don't know the first time we did, but what do you find really helpful from a job search perspective when you do different types of networking events? What are the real benefits for each of you?
So, hi everybody. I'm in New York, by the way, since we're doing where we're from. I find I learn different things from different calls. I participate in many. I don't even like to call them job search. I like to call them coaching, or because so many different calls address different things. Like, you often can focus on LinkedIn. Someone else focuses on Zoom. Someone else may focus on the basics of job search. Others may focus on the networking. But what's so amazing is that there are so many groups you can drop in on and learn new things. And that's what I've found, that I have some of my favorites. Ken, you're on my Tuesday schedule. And also your occasional monthly 7 o'clock programs, which if people don't know about, you should check that out.
I want to give a shout out first. Brenda Miller is here. Brenda Miller is actually going to be on the call next month. So I definitely want to give her a quick shout out.
And Brenda's my Friday call. So she's got a great VIP job seekers group, and you should check Brenda out as well. And she's also written a wonderful book. It's called Social Media Pie, which again, Brenda's call addresses a lot of things pertaining to not really job search, more just utilizing LinkedIn and social media tools. Stan, I'll let you jump in so I don't keep talking.
Oh, there's so much going on that it's really great, and be member of the different LinkedIn groups and listen in. So I would say there are two things that I've really gained from these things. One is, of course, new contacts to network with, which gives you new second-degree contacts and whatnot that you can use in your job search. And the second is learning about all the little things in LinkedIn, all the tweaks you can do, why it's important to do this and that, and keywords. Don't use I am on every second line. And we'll just see how this goes and how much more we can bring into this for all of you.
Definitely. I think one of the things that I find now, for sure with job search, is that it's challenging to understand how you get the job. What do you need to do? Sometimes things change on the fly. So Nancy, if you have any specific successes or challenges that you want to share that might be helpful for everyone else here.
Well, I think the successes which Sten touched on is all the networking. I've always been a huge networker anyway, but this opened up even more opportunities. And I'm happy to say I've been able to help people, and people are being very generous with making introductions. And I think that we all have to be open and to meeting new people, even when they're not in our exact area or field that we're working in, because you just never know who they know, you know, from either a former position or someone that they went to school with. So, I mean, really, it just opens the Pandora's box. It doesn't have to be limited to your industry. I know we all gravitate. My background's healthcare communications, and yes, I might gravitate to some of those people working in hospitals or pharmaceutical companies or healthcare companies. But at the same time, even someone in banking, their wife or husband or significant other could be someone working in the field that you're interested in. So I just encourage people to have these conversations and reach out. Everybody has a chat in these conversations, so you should save the chat and make note of folks. And my message, I always like to say, I know Brenda says it also, and I think Ken, you do too. It's very, very important though, when reaching out to folks, that you personalize. If LinkedIn is going to be the initial form of contact, which it usually is, it's very important to say where you met that person, so it isn't just coming out of left field, and that you get the sense that they really want to know you, the person, rather than just your name.
And I think to that point, everyone here who's on the call, when this is over and you watch the rerun or the rebroadcast, you're going to see everyone here who's posted something in the chat. So if I don't get to you, and you can connect with them and use this call or this LinkedIn Live as a starting point. And I'm going to ask, some questions of the people later on, because everything is about networking. And I see, some familiar faces here, or actually familiar chats. Stan, is there anything else you'd like to add to what Nancy said?
I can't think of anything in particular right now. Sorry, I got distracted by some technical issue here.
So let me ask the group, is there anything specific that you'd want to ask of us or ask of others here? Just post something in the comments, and we'd be, happy to give you some of our background, because a lot of what you can learn online is not the same thing as actually what you might learn from us. We've all been there, whether it's in transition or not. So I think it's very important to feel comfortable, and I think something like this is extremely important. I know for me, it's not just about using the LinkedIn profile to find a job, it's to use it to market yourself and make sure of that. And I think it's so important to ask and to write it in the perspective of, how do you want to be found? What's in it for me in terms of the next job that you're looking for? It's not the resume, it's not the historical. It's how can I take what I've done and put it to good use? I don't know if Nancy, if you find something.
No, I totally agree with that. I mean, every time you add a new contact, you're potentially adding someone that you can, if not for yourself, someone you can help put let's speak English, putting someone else in touch to another person that they might need to be connected to. So, I definitely think it's worthwhile. I want to mention one thing, I think, because this has come up on some calls last week. We're in the middle of July, which is essentially, I just had a birthday last week. So it's the middle of the year. It's 6 months in, and I think people are starting to feel some burnout. And I think that needs to be addressed. And they're going to be, it's like anything in life. There are good days and there are bad days. And maybe, it might be longer than a day, but just to sort of work through it. And if it means taking a day or two off to regroup, I've always believed getting out of town maybe for a day or two is a good thing to do. So just to feel like it's not just you that's happening to. You might suddenly just have that, I'm so sick of this kind of thing, but just try and do something else.
So Dan just posted this, which is extremely important, is the idea of keeping motivated. And especially now. So Stan, did you want to talk to that and how you keep motivated?
Oh, there are lots of different things. You talked about getting out of town there, and I'm going to take that a little bit more to the extreme. I'm leaving for Sweden in about a month, not quite. And it's going to be either for 5 weeks or a year. I'm not sure yet.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a difference there. It all hangs on if my daughter gets accepted to a school over there or not. She's in line. Anyway, other things, don't spend 60, 80 more hours looking for positions, searching and things like that. Set up automated bots to call you, but mostly get your name out there. Make your LinkedIn profile easy to search on, so the recruiters will start calling you. Okay, you will get some recruiters that you're not interested in at all, and bots and whatnot, but sometimes there's a little nugget there, so make sure to match to the keywords, etc., all the classical stuff.
Thanks.
Ahmad?
Yeah, I see a couple questions here. And this is an interesting question from Sam. Isn't job search on LinkedIn marketing? I'm going to say to some extent it is, because you're marketing yourself. And I think we get a little bit caught up in the terminology. Yes, it's a job search, but you're also marketing yourself for whoever your next client or employer is. Do either of you have any thoughts on that? Nancy or Sven?
Well, I'm not sure. Is the question as if it's a bad thing, or?
So Sam, if you want to post a follow-up to kind of rephrase that, I mean, you're marketing yourself on LinkedIn for sure. That's part of job search. You also want to have a profile that's very specific and can be found. So I'm going to guess that that's what that Sam had to say. Follow-up, which you did. I'm going to say this, and the short answer, it is, you're always marketing yourself. Wherever you are, even on this call, we're all marketing.
Absolutely.
So I think looking at it this way is extremely important. So I think we all kind of lose sight of the fact that, and I'm as zoomed out as anyone else is here. I've made the decision to not attend certain events anymore. I get the reminders all the time. Can you please, these are your availability for this week. So Sam just said, no, it's just a reflection. Well,
Yeah.
or a reflection. Okay.
Well, absolutely. You need a marketing plan to get your name out there so you get known and get out to the people closest to you and post on LinkedIn. But LinkedIn isn't the only one. You need to get on at least Twitter as well, and then maybe Facebook, Instagram, depending on your exact line of business that you're looking to get into. If it's visual marketing, Instagram is probably more important than Twitter. But
well, and that brings up a good point.
I
think there's all different ways to go about it. I mean, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, but I think it's having a balance with whatever you do, because I know that I'm on the other platforms, but not as much. It's good to know that they're out there. And even with Clubhouse, Clubhouse has its place.
Yeah.
But like anything else, it's about time management. Part of the time you want to spend has to be for things that are important to you. So just to answer a specific question from Sam, printing your contact database. If you're referring to LinkedIn, downloading your connections, you can download your connections and they go to a spreadsheet, which you can then print out and organize. I mean, there is no easy way to do a print on LinkedIn of everything you do. You can download your profile as a PDF. You can download different content that you have. I think it's just as important to be organized with whatever you do, because you can get into that black hole that we all get to. Next thing you know, I thought I was going to do 5 different things. I only have time for one, and I think that's a big part of it. For sure. I mean, I'm at a place now where I realize that there's no real benefit to me to go to every single meeting anymore, unless there's a value. Everything really has to have a certain level of value, for sure.
And I think you usually do. It's funny that you say that, because I'm definitely, I don't know if I'm a groupie or I have an addiction issue, but certain calls that I do every week, Yeah, there's a lot of repetition, but you can always pick up something new, I find. One little nugget it might be, but sometimes that one little nugget could be the most beneficial. I wanted to mention something about, funny you say about Clubhouse. As we all see with Clubhouse, Instagram is really you can put your LinkedIn profile on there, which is nice, but Instagram and Twitter, but Instagram clearly is the go-to to connect with people because you can't connect any other way.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting because so many people use Instagram for business. I don't. I might mention I think I mentioned that I work, in healthcare communications, but it's still very much a personal account for me. I guess one could start, but I find that a lot of the people on Clubhouse, if they're in design or fashion or art, they're able to publicize their services very nicely through Instagram.
Definitely. Go ahead, Stan.
I was going to say, I couldn't find a way to work on a private chat with you. It doesn't really work on Firefox, apparently. Can you mute your microphone for a second? Ken?
Yep.
I think,
Yep.
Okay, so it's not from you. Nancy, can you try it?
sure.
All right. There's a sound issue from you, Nancy. So please mute when you're not speaking. That is much better for me, at least. How about you, Ken?
Better?
Oh, yeah. It comes from Nancy. Yep.
Okay, well.
You're still getting it because I had a fan on. I turned off the fan. You're still getting it?
It sounds like someone else speaking very, very garbled. So I don't think it's your room, but it's certainly something. All right. So asking the host to mute when you're not speaking.
All right.
That was the take.
What I wanted to do, if it's okay now, is just call out some of the people that are on the call and kind of, let them know that we see them. Patty is from the Danbury, Connecticut area. Good to see you here, Patty. We mentioned Brett. Carol McCullough. We all know Carol, and Carol actually has her networking group on Saturday mornings. I believe she posted information in the chat about that. Joe Levinson from Rivervale, another New Jersey local person. Very happy to see that. And I saw Steve over here from Springfield. Christine from Mount Olive. I mean, it's so great to see so many people here that I know and others that I'm seeing for the first time in a while. And because this was a bit of an experiment for us. What we tried to do today for the first time is I have a weekly LinkedIn event on Tuesdays of 1 to 2. And I thought, let's try to do this as a LinkedIn Live for the first time. And one of the things you realize is you have to give very specific instructions as to how to do things because it's not intuitive to everyone else. So hopefully everyone here was able to join us. Hi, Christine. Christine actually is going to be on this call in a couple of weeks. So I think it's extremely, relevant. I think being an introvert that I am, it is very challenging to do this. I'm looking at this as a conversation with a couple of people, definitely getting out of my comfort zone for sure. So Nancy, is there anything you wanted to add? I mean, I don't want you to feel you can't speak.
I was just checking LinkedIn Live on my phone to see what it looks like. So now I see.
And what does it look like? Because it's a little hard for me because I've seen other people do it.
Yeah, there's the three of us. It's exactly like it looks up here. And like you say, I don't see the chat for some reason.
Well, you're not going to because it's not your LinkedIn Live. If you get LinkedIn Live for yourself, then you'll see the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, people are saying hi and things like that. And
so if you want to call out any of them too, go ahead. I mean, like I said, if you want to mention other people here too, or if anything specific they want to work with, because I think it's important for people to understand that a platform like this is a place for everyone to feel comfortable talking. You know, a lot of times we have a conversation, and there isn't always the opportunity for people to chime in. You know, I do a lot of presentations, and I think it's important to understand that you have the opportunity here to be heard, maybe not heard vocally, but to be heard as well, for sure. I think I wrote some very interesting posts this week that have been picked up. The idea of should, and I know that Sue Ellison from Australia picked it up, should job seekers be paid? And what I meant by that was not so much just for the interview, but for maybe sharing their work or for their time. So what do you think about that?
I agree. I mean, I assume you're talking about if you're asked to do a proposal or some kind of a PowerPoint. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asked for work samples. I've been asked to actually do a project for someone. And I've actually had it happen to me, and I found out that some of my work samples were used as product by the company. You know, it's kind of like free labor. And I don't know if that is a standard or maybe it's an IT thing, but if at the very least, if you were requiring people to sign an NDM or a non-disclosure, agreeing not to share, I think it's pretty much stacked against job seekers. And I've had it happen to me, and it's happened to other people too. And it's a very interesting thing. I'm not saying everyone applies for a job, but if you bring 2, 3, 4 people in, I mean, there should be some sort of compensation, I think. But again, it's something I'd be asking the two of you.
I totally agree. Time is money. And I know, you know, it's a way to evaluate you, but considering how so many people that are looking to hire employees don't get back to you, and, you know, the ghosting and all that, I definitely think that if you spend any amount of time on a project, you should be compensated. I do.
What do you think, Stan?
I agree. If it's something that brings company value, that you should be paid. I mean, I was once asked to create a quality assurance plan for a toaster, and this company was in medical devices or close to it. So it didn't really help them, I'm sure. So in that case, I wouldn't ask to be paid. But if I've been asked to come up with a marketing plan for their product, yeah, I would ask for something.
Yeah, I think it's an open question that's definitely worth it. A couple of things, a couple of comments here. James Strachan, it's like NCAA players getting paid. I mean, to some extent, this is something which definitely you want to address later on. And Christine says, I'm totally against any type of free labor. And to some extent, when you're on an interview, sometimes they will take advantage of you. And as a job seeker, you're in a precarious position because you want the job. But at the same time, how much are you willing to share? I'm a consultant, or was when I was working. And I told them flat out, I cannot share any work product because it's not mine, it's the company's, which is valid. I mean, and their answer back is, well, can you do a template of what you did? Yeah, I can download a template online and throw it together, of course, but is that really what you really need to see from me? And I think it's probably a fear as much as anything else that people have. You know, we have that whole discussion about how many interviews are needed for a job, and there's a mindset that everyone's afraid of making their own decision on the other side. So they have multiple rounds of people so they can have a consensus. And if there's a mistake, that you can't just point fingers. And I think that's one of the challenges. Like, make a decision and own the decision, and hire the person for who they are. And I think that, again, I don't know if you and Nancy, if you and Sten have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, at some point, it's either a yay or a nay. You know, I mean, you can just keep going and going and going. Yeah, I definitely think things need to change on behalf of people in search mode. And I don't really understand why it is the way it is. It just seems very...
Well, I had a call with Jack Kelly, and he basically said everyone wants to cover themselves. No one wants to hire their own person. So they bring all these people in for a consensus, and by the time they've gotten to that consensus, they realize they're looking for a different type of person, and they go through the whole process again. Acknowledging it is only the first step. I'm a big believer. I've put together what I call a job seeker bill of rights. I think, when you're on an airline, you have certain rights when you're flying. I mean, after a couple hours or so, you have to, whatever it is. And there should be some general understanding. I mean, I know it can't be enforced, but I think it's worth considering for sure. And I'd be curious to know if other people also, agree with me. But I'd love pushback. I mean, I'd love someone to tell me that I'm out of line, or what am I thinking about? Because again, I'm looking at this from one side. I would love to have conversations with hiring managers. I actually reached out to a few of my former hiring managers who left the field just to see if I was crazy or not. But I think one other thing which I have to bring up, which is a very funny story, and I've shared it online. I got invited to an interview, a second round interview at a company. The company was one that I didn't even know it was a first round interview for. Didn't even know what the job was. And then I read closer, and I was optional. I was supposed to be there as someone interviewing the people. So what do? I reached out to the company, the recruiting company that I thought it was from, and they didn't know. So I decided on a lark to message the person on LinkedIn who was on there and say, was it a mistake? And he said it was. I'm sorry. But part of me is like, what were you thinking? I mean, and I know automation is in there. I know stuff happens, and I'm not mentioning the company, the people here, because it's an embarrassment, I'm sure. But it just makes me wonder how much bad stuff like this is going on. And it kind of, I mean, if I had not contacted the person, I would have been on the call. And a couple of people said, you should have just been on the call and just been part of the conversation for fun. And I was tempted to, and maybe I will next time. But has anyone, Nancy, have you or Stan had any type of experience like that?
The closest was a number of years ago. I had applied for a position through a recruiter, and I was called in after the phone screen. I was called in for a one-on-one interview, and I get up there, meet the person, we sit down, and he starts first asking general questions. I mean, tell me about yourself and things like that. But then the questions came into areas that I had very little knowledge about, and I didn't see on the job description. So after a while, I had to ask, what is this an interview for? And it was for a different position. And I had made the effort to travel in and go into the company and whatnot. And obviously, the recruiter, an external recruiter, had just missed the connection somewhere. So that's, I think, is a sort of funniest example I have.
Nancy, is there any funny story that you can share or feel comfortable sharing about as the eyes are rolling?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Nothing comes to mind.
Okay. I mean, I think to some extent, I think it's important to be empathetic and understanding that things do happen. I mean, there's a whole conversation we can have about automation and the connection requests I've gotten that don't even have my name, and it's a different person's name. And I think to some extent, and Brenda does this all the time, when she gets an automation, she sends a test or some content back and it comes again. I have no problem reaching out to a person. I mean, I actually looked up the people in this case on LinkedIn because it's good to let them know. You know, this is not about finger pointing, and I just think they need to figure out what to do. And this is an interesting comment from Michael. New Jersey is an at-will state, which basically means you can be hired or fired pretty much any time. I don't know what's going to happen with COVID, and it brings up a very interesting dynamic. A lot of places are going back to work, and they expect you to go to work too. And maybe you do or don't want to go. Maybe you don't want to go because of the commute. Maybe you don't want to go because you're not comfortable in the environment. I don't know what the answer is going to be. I mean, if I'm not as comfortable going back to the city again, but it's not just COVID. It's for me a long commute. But would you, Nancy or Stan, have any issue going back into a workplace if it's if they have all the precautions there, or would your mindset be I've been home and I'm comfortable, work even if it's a hybrid?
I would prefer going back in-house. That's just my personality. I like to see people. I like to collaborate with people. I'm vaccinated, so I feel confident and comfortable, and I would hope things would stay that way. Yeah, I prefer in person.
What about you, Stan?
I would definitely prefer in person, at least much of the time, if the commute isn't too bad, of course.
And that's a relative thing. That's a relative thing where we are, of course, for sure.
Yes, it is. But there are a couple of things around this it's going to change the whole industry, or all industries, almost. You can now look for jobs all over the country and ask, can I do this remotely if you have the perfect fit? It also means that the recruiters can go all over the country and say, are you willing to work remote? And most of us, if that's the only choice we have, would probably take that.
I know in my case, too many years ago, I was a developer. We called ourselves programmers then. And I was on call. And I would have to be on call 24/7 and have to figure out things. And so there are times I was working from home and dealing with people from all over the world then and having to make decisions. And it's definitely challenging to be in an environment when you're home and you're trying to coordinate with all different people. It does take a certain skill set. I've worked from home a lot. I miss the office. I miss the interactions. I miss the coffee. Sometimes you're complaining about the coffee or all that stuff. So I'm striking a hybrid balance, and I suggest that. One other thing that did come up, a lot of people have asked, what about working part-time, home and working part-time, at work? And I think you want to advocate for yourself as a job seeker. Nothing is off the table if you're doing a good job. And, Brenda, surprising that she got someone in transition in the area. She needs a new headshot. Any tips how to find a lower cost but good quality headshot photographer? I'll ask you two, Nancy and Sten, if you have any first thoughts as to what you would suggest.
Well, there are a lot of people that do that type of photography, and I think not everyone charges, the huge fees. So, I'd be happy to look in my list of connections. I might have some suggestions of folks.
Yeah, there's also been, now that we're going back to normal and meeting in person, I think some of the LinkedIn groups and whatnot allow for this. And I did mine, I think it was at Lynn Williams's LinkedIn presentation at Chester County Library. Mm-hmm. So I got that for free. And hang on, see if I can share, because it was something else. Easiest with two monitors. Sorry here.
In the meantime, Sam Cohn suggested doing a search on Groupon. What I would say also is a lot of in-person networking events are now going to have photographers that are available. So you're sharing your screen, Sam, and what do I look at there?
I did that intentionally. I was just going to show my headshot there. Now, a couple of things to think of with the headshot is don't take it straight on, because people can basically copy this photo and they can use that for fake IDs using your photo and whatnot. I'm not sure if that's so much of a concern, but make sure that it's not taken exactly head on, and have the person in the photo look a little bit towards the right in this banner, so that it looks like you're looking forward in time, so to speak, instead of looking backward.
Okay, I'm going to take that off the feed if that's okay.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing here.
I mean, the other thing to think about also is that, and Brenda always brings this up as a great point, you want to look at your headshot on mobile too, especially now as we head out to more mobile events. You want to make sure that it puts you in the best light possible. And there's a different size of the screen there. There's certain percentages I know that Brenda recommends also that it be. As we go to mobile especially, you want to think about the fact that as things open up, we're going to be going back to networking again, maybe using the QR codes or other things as well. I just think it's extremely important to know that the hardest part about all of this, honestly, and it is for me too, is going to be to go out to an in-person event again and see people, and not sure what the protocol is. I mean, I don't know how soon I'm going to be shaking hands again.
Elbows.
What? Elbows. So is that the new protocol? Elbow? I mean, I elbow my dentist. That's what we do. But
you wouldn't normally hug him anyway, would you?
I didn't say my dentist was a him. I said my dentist.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why I'm sorry.
But seriously, like, I mean, I know people that I can't wait to give hugs to. And, they're local people. But if I'm meeting 60, 70 people at an event, I don't know how I feel about that. And, again, even the idea of do places say you have to be vaccinated or not? Because if you're going to be at a place like a hotel or a library or something, you really have to think about what their rules are. It may not be my rules. And I think these are all things that we're going to be dealing with, for sure. So I'm
going to reach out my hand to people and see how they react.
Okay.
And if they shake my hand, that's fine. I'll bring some hand gel and whatnot. But if they indicate that they want to do a virtual high five or an elbow or knee or whatever, I'll just follow their hint. But I'll show that I'm willing to shake hands with them. I think that's my choice. And for me, it's important to show that I'm willing to do that.
I love this comment by Sam. You must advocate for yourself. No one else will. Mm-hmm. We can, as much as we want to give advice and support and the like, at the end of the day, it is all about you, what you can do, and not to be afraid, to be proactive and ask questions. I mean, I believe interviews are conversations, no more, no less. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think the more you go ahead.
Now, go on, finish that. But then I'm going to see Sam had a question a little bit earlier about exporting contacts, and I was going to show some things.
All right. Well, I think he was alluding to exporting on LinkedIn, but then printing them out. So I think I kind of answered that a little bit, but
there are some things to be. If you export your contacts to an Excel file, which you can do, you won't get all of the information. You won't get email addresses and phone numbers unless that person in his profile has agreed to share it with anybody. So there is a setting on the profile where you agree to this or not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the default is off.
And just a shout out to Christine. She works for the Monmouth County Workforce Development Board. They do them for free. I would not be surprised if a lot of local groups do these types of free have pictures. And this is what she's referring to. Again, the more you do it, the better. I'm overdue for a change in my picture, among other things. I also want to suggest that everyone here take advantage of Cover Story, which is the ability to use your picture for a 30-second intro. For sure. And these are all marketing tools. I mean, I think the most important thing to think about is that whatever you do, you have to feel comfortable doing it. all of us can give advice and support and suggestions, and definitely glean from it what you want. But think about it. What do you feel comfortable doing?
It's
So,
definitely
and
something that I'm considering. I just haven't done yet.
what considering what?
The cover story.
Okay. Well, all I can say is you can always do it again and again, and just try it, and you can re-record it, and you can get rid of it. I mean, see, nothing is permanent. I mean, I have creative mode, and I may take it off and may put it back on again. Again, it's LinkedIn. You can't break anything. If it doesn't work, you just fix it. I think there's a mindset. Maybe it's my generation. We'd be so afraid to do something because it wouldn't save properly, or we couldn't erase it or something. I don't know. If it doesn't work, you get rid of it, or try something else, for sure. So I know Veronica's asking about recommending a resume or coaching service. There are so many out there. I think my answer would be it really depends what you're looking for, because there's all different types of, all of us on this call definitely can share insights, but I think it's a case of what is the goal from the resume and coaching service? I mean, do you want someone to write your resume in a certain way? Do you want someone to teach you interviewing skills? I mean, and that's the first thing is when you make a request, think about it think about how it will work for you. It is not that because I know when I work with people, I say, what is the expectation? I know what I do and I know what you want, but let's have a conversation first. And, because none of us that do what we do pitch ourselves that way. You want to develop a relationship. And I will say this, Veronica, I'm happy to have a connection request with you offline and have a conversation, but I'm not pitching. Believe me, that's not the goal. And even these calls and things. So
start with Ken. I think that's the message, Veronica. Veronica? So yeah, start with Ken, because he is very laid back, which is good.
And the first thing I'll do is I'll have a conversation like this, because I don't think there's any benefit. And that brings up the whole thing on LinkedIn. I've gotten so many connection requests over the years, and right away it's a hard sell. I don't want that at all. I know why people do it. I don't like it. It's the old throwing the spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. Didn't stick with me. Doesn't stick with a lot of people, but as Brenda does and others, it's a knowledge thing. Sometimes you turn that and you say, look, is this working for you or something, and just being very cordial about it, because, setting them up and even when I posted the thing about the interview, I didn't mention the company, the people, because there's no benefit to it, but it was a lesson, and when in presentations, when we talk about bad connection requests, the same thing. It's just about to give people knowledge and insights. So Go ahead. So, if anyone wants to, towards the end of this, just post a couple of networking events that they'd like the group to see, can repost them. I'd be happy to share them towards the end. I know that we have a lot of great groups in New Jersey for sure, but I'm happy to use the time to promote what other people have to say. And next week we have Beth Granger coming. I'm going to be having my Tuesday events as usual in the future, except for once a month. But I wanted to see today how the platform worked, not just from my perspective, but for other people on the call. And so Nancy and Stan, I really appreciate you being here. You are two of my weekly LinkedIn folks, and you put yourselves out there to have a conversation with me. So what did you think about it?
It was fun.
Good.
Yep, absolutely. I like it. I was running, or I am running on Firefox, and apparently there are some functions that don't work. I can see the comments, but I can't post one on my own. Apparently.
You can't. You can. The only way you can post a comment is when it gets to LinkedIn, and you can post the comment there. But in the feed itself,
but I can't chat. But it doesn't. I can't chat with the host and other guests. But
all right, so here we go. This is interesting. I learned. I clicked on the person in the chat. It brought me to the LinkedIn profile overlaying this session. Returning to this session via browser, back button cut off earlier part of the chat for me.
Yeah, because you're coming in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And Carol, in terms of saving the chat is not lost. It's going to be a feed. It's going to be on LinkedIn with this recording, you're going to see all the chat there. It's as though it'll be a post on LinkedIn. So when you go to LinkedIn, you'll see it as a post, and everyone who's chatted on here, it'll be saved there. And as I go back and comment and thank people, you'll see it there. So it's not like Zoom where you actually have to save the chat and be reminded to. This is going to be a living recording. And if you go back a week from now or 2 weeks from now, it's still going to be there. Good and bad.
Yep. I have a quick help. A tip that I wanted to share or two. If I'm gonna share again here and see that it works,
Sure.
because share screen, select Windows, screen 1, allow.
Add you to the stream.
Yeah. Okay. So here it goes. There was a question about exporting your data. And one thing I would recommend a lot is if you click on the little mini-me up here, and then you go down to help. In this case, I can see export contacts, and I'll hit enter. It's going to say export connections from LinkedIn. And it tells you all the steps how to do it. So basically what you need to go over to settings and privacy, get a copy of your data. You click change, which doesn't seem that intuitive to me. And then you can download the larger archive, which I've never tried, but want something in particular. Select the data files you're most interested in. So in this case, I'm interested in connections, and I'll request the archive, and I will get the download, and I'll see it later.
Mhm.
The thing is, as I mentioned, phone numbers and emails you only get from the ones that have specifically agreed to share those. And I haven't really looked for that. Oh, I think it's here. Who can see or download your email address? So first degree connections can see it and allow your connections to download your email in their data export. I don't see why not, but I'm sure there's a similar setting for a phone number. So, but I put both of them at the bottom of my profile, but it doesn't help you if you want to download all. So sorry, there is no.
In Europe and in other places, they have different limits in terms of what they're allowed to share with data. So I think that's why LinkedIn actually, I think, started doing it, is because of that. And secondarily, it's because a lot of people got spammed. Now, Christine asked the question about the number of attendees. There's no limit to attendees because you're actually going to a platform. You're going to a platform to watch this, whether it's here on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on Facebook. So as many or as few people can be there. You can have the hundreds or thousands. But the good thing about it also is it gets recorded. So if you miss any part of it, you can go back and see it.
But Ken, I have a question. When I came in earlier, if I'm not mistaken, I think it said for StreamYard, the capacity was 10.
That's the number of guests.
Right. So that is true, correct?
No, yeah, like I can only have 9 other people like the two of us. And when Sten shared a screen, that became a 4th guest. But anyone can view the platform now. If you do like Brenda does these 3-4 hour things, you can have more than 10 guests, but it's broken out over different parts. It's not like a whole 10 guests at one time. But you know, these are all things. I mean, as I'm doing this, like other people, we're all trying this out, and to the best advantage. I mean, my goal with these is to make them very casual and not just specific. So, like, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. I love having speakers, and I'm definitely looking for more. But it's really just about a conversation. And Stan, what you did is really great to be able to share something like that, because that's going to be very helpful in the future. So. Does anyone else have any other questions that they'd like to share? Because if not, I want to be respectful of everyone's time, because so many people leave early for 2 o'clock meetings and they miss the end of the meeting and that sort of thing. So I want to be, respectful of that. But Nancy and Stan, this was great for me too, because I want people on the calls to feel comfortable talking. to be honest. I mean, I love having these conversations because I know the two of you a little bit. And that helps me out a lot as an introvert because, and I say this, and I am an introvert. As soon as this call is over, I'm going to totally decompress, take my nap, whatever it is, go for a walk, because that's what I do. So if no one has any other, go ahead, Stan.
No, I was just going to say, maybe I'll take the dog for a walk. Not a bad idea. We both need it.
Well, unfortunately, I can't do the walking yet because I'm still dealing with my broken toe, but another couple of weeks, it's a whole different story.
Sorry to hear about that. Well, fast healing, and I enjoyed this. This is the first time I've been invited as a guest speaker from the start. Sometimes I join during meetings, especially on Clubhouse, but this is great. Thank you,
It's a
Ken.
lot of fun, much as anything else. And just for the record, it was a table leg in my toe that did not agree. I was walking around the house barefoot, and I the table leg in my toe did not agree. And of course, I didn't think it was broken. I figured, it's just gonna. But last year it was a broken wrist. This year it's a broken toe. Who knows what's next?
You can't.
That's okay. For me, it was a sledgehammer. Not recently, though.
Oh God. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm going to just go some thank yous now. Thank you very much, Patty. Thank you, Christine.
Thank
you. Carol, thank you very much. Jolene, thank you. Thank you. I mean, these events are only as good as the people that attend them, and I think it's important. I mean, as I want something like this to be a benefit to everyone for sure. Take some calcium. Okay, I'm not sure if that's for me, Edith, or not.
Bones.
I'm good about that, but I appreciate that. Maybe we should actually have one of these LinkedIn events where we do like a thing where like bring your aches and pains, and let's see if the group can kind of manage that. So I'm going to end the call in a couple minutes. Have a great day, everyone. Take care. So
thanks, Ken, for the opportunity.
It's
Happy
great.
to connect with people if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely connect with all of us.
Yeah. Live long and prosper.
Yes.